why do you want to switch? It's perfectly okay if you want to switch for money or if you want to switch for growth. Now, based on this criteria, the next part is that you shortlist companies. Now, the thing is that how would you shortlist? There are platforms like, as you all know, LinkedIn, InstaHire, AngelList, and different companies like Razorpay, Amazon, Flipkart, Google. A lot of companies like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, when you go to their career page, they have their career portal. Even LinkedIn and these companies also have, and Recro is also one company where you can connect and join with the opportunities.
Hello and welcome everybody once again. My name is Rashmi and I lead community here at Recro. Although I'm sure some of you would be quite familiar with what Recro is, but those of you who are not, let me quickly give you a very short introduction. We are a platform wherein we help developers connect with best of the opportunities for them. We work with clients like Swiggy, CureFed, Dunzo, Cred, and a lot more. And we help developers meet the right opportunities. In terms of community, there's something called Rebase by Recro, which is a community of developers precisely for Java and JavaScript developers as of now, um, wherein the purpose is to bring the best of the learning opportunities for developers so that they can connect with good mentors, they can meet like-minded people, they can learn from fellow developers, and we can help them be a better version of themselves, and we can have we can help them in maybe finding the best opportunities for them, right? So that's what we do here at Recro and at Rebase. If you are the community is on Discord. If you are not a part of it, you would have received an email though, which would have a link to join the Discord community. But if you are not a part of it, I'll also drop the link to the Discord community in the chat. And after this session, you can join. So that's a quick introduction about Recro. Today we have Yomesh with us as a speaker who will be talking about how can you prepare and how can you ace the front-end interviews. A quick introduction about Yomesh as well. He is working with Apollo currently as a senior software developer, and he has worked with companies like OLX and Razorpay before. I'll let Yomesh introduce himself a little more and talk a little bit about himself as well. Yomesh, over to you.
Thanks, Rashmi. So let me. I start my slides with that. I'll give my introduction.
Yeah,
Sure.
works. Yeah.
Could you please enable screen sharing?
Yes. Give me a sec. Yeah, can you check
And I
now?
think someone also mentioned that chat is disabled or something, or maybe Q&A.
Okay, let me see. No, I don't think it is disabled.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is my
because
screen?
yeah, the screen is visible. And guys, I don't think the chat is disabled. The chat is disabled as it's there on the chat, right? So I just checked the setting. It's not, I guess. Yeah, Umesh, we can start.
Yeah. So Hi everyone, I'm Yamesh. I currently work as a senior front-end engineer at Apollo.io. It's a startup based out of San Francisco, and we have a presence in India also, the engineering team. I have like 6+ years of experience, and I've worked with organizations like OLX Group, Razorpay, and a couple of startups here and there. Also, apart from my day job, I work on like some, you know, ways and products and projects to help the front end community. Two of them, the link is mentioned on the screen: DevTools.tech and my YouTube channel DevTools Tech. These are platforms for front end engineers to go and prepare for front end interviews. They're like, you have for backend you have lead code and HackerRank and code check, but for front end we don't have anything. So DevTools.tech is kind of filling that space with quality curated questions from top companies like Razorpay, Hotstar, Amazon, Microsoft, and all. So the website contains questions from all the top companies. So that's a pretty much brief intro about me. I've been working in front end, but I have experience in full stack and everything. So, Rashmi, should I start with my slide?
Yeah, you can.
Cool. I have some quick slides to go through over. These are going to be centric around interviews and front end interviews specifically. We'll talk about a certain things and then we'll start with the quick AMA session. So the first part is search. Rashmi, let me know if you can see the first slide.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's visible.
Thanks. Okay. So for any interview, be it front end, be it back end, this is the common part that it's all about search. That now when I talk about search, it's a very umbrella term. So I mentioned some key points. That first of all is that understand your requirements. That why do you want to switch? What tech stack do you want to work with? Which domain do you want to work in? Fintech? Do you want to work in healthcare? And by tech stack, I mean that do you want to work with Angular, React, Vue? And why do you want to switch? Do you want to switch for growth? Do you want to switch for money? Do you want to switch for work-life balance? So this is important because based on this criteria, you can shortlist your jobs. Now, let's say you have a initial idea. Why do you want to switch? It's perfectly okay if you want to switch for money or if you want to switch for growth. Now, based on this criteria, the next part is that you shortlist companies. Now, the thing is that how would you shortlist? There are platforms like, as you all know, LinkedIn, InstaHire, AngelList, and different companies like Razorpay, Amazon, Flipkart, Google. A lot of companies like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, when you go to their career page, they have their career portal. Even LinkedIn and these companies also have, and Recro is also one company where you can connect and join with the opportunities. So like big companies like Amazon, Google, these companies on their career portal, where you can search for, let's say, front end engineer, they will give you an option to set up an alert that whenever your query matches any of the open job, they'll send you a mail. Now this is a small step, but this would help you keep ahead of the competition if you set up alerts like that on LinkedIn or on AngelList or on companies Amazon and Microsoft, because for these companies thousands of people would be applying. So if you get notified early and you apply, then it's a step ahead. Next part of your search is that do apply to the levels which suits you. I mean, I see people who are SD1, SD2, and they apply for architect roles or staff engineer roles. I mean, those things, do not make that mistake. To apply to the roles which you feel are more inclined to you. If you're a front end engineer, SD1, you can apply for a SD2, but don't apply for SD3 or staff engineer unless you feel you're very confident for that, because those roles have different criteria, different requirements, and different interview process. You might fail at that. So try to because getting a job is a game of probability. Now your any step you take is about increasing that probability. So if you apply to things or companies you see fit, then you're increasing your probability. Next part for the search is ask for referrals. I mean, be polite and respectful. People would help you and put in your referral, but they need to see you have done some work. I mean, if you come to me and tell me that that I saw an open like, hi, I am so and so, I have this much experience, and please find a job for me in your company. I mean, that doesn't work for me, because if I'm putting in a referral for you, that means that you are a potential teammate of mine. So I would like to see someone who comes to me and say that, hi, I'm so and so, this is my experience. This job role on your career page seems more inclined to me, and this is my resume and this is my past work. Could you please look into it? Then I can see that you have done some effort, you are serious about your own career, because I don't know you. If you come and say to me that please find a referral for me, I don't know you. Are you suited for a front end role? Are you suited for a back end role? Are you suited for a senior front end role or a DevOps role? So do your homework, because it shows that you are committed, and you are uh, uh, serious about getting that job. So the next part after the search is your resume. That the the most simple and the golden rule is, do not lie on your resume. Mention things which you are comfortable with, because a good interviewer will see through it. I mean, if you have done some work, then mention it, but try not to exaggerate too much. Try not to say things where you haven't contributed anything, and just filling it for the sake of filling it. Next part is refine and personalization. At the end of day, everything is a sales job, because if you are applying for a company, you are selling yourself, as in you're selling your skills and trying to get there. So now how well you sell, how well you present yourself matters. So when I talk about refine and personalization, then read the JD, see what they are looking into, what kind of company it is. Let's say uh, a company like Flipkart, which is a B2C organization. That means they have millions of users who use different websites, as in billions of users who use different devices. Some might be logging from a tablet, some might be logging from a phone. For that company, requirements are more around performance, because they have millions of users. Their requirement would be more around having good CSS knowledge and those things. Compared to someone like, let's say, a B2B company like Apollo, where the users are more business users. For them, the features should work. For their requirement would be more around in-depth knowledge of something else. So try to understand the industry, try to understand for which company you are applying, and tailor made your resume as per that. Next part is showcase your achievements. I mean, if you have done open source projects or side projects, if you have done past work, mention those. And if you, let's say, in an organization you're currently working, you did some A/B test, and based on that A/B test, the sign up conversion increase from, let's say, you did some test, you worked on a feature from sign up. Earlier there were, let's say, 20 signups. Next and due to your feature, it became 40. I'm just taking a random number. Now there is 100% increase. So mention that I worked on a certain feature or a certain A/B test that led to the conversion in 40% increase or 100% increase in the signups, or XYZ. Maybe you worked on improving the performance. So what was the metric that you improved? Was it time to first byte? Was it first contentful paint? Whatever it is, mention that in your CV, because that gives a data point to the user. If you vaguely write that I helped in optimizing the JS bundle, that means a lot of things. So try to be concise, try to mention data points, try to use bullet points, and try to highlight things what you have done. Next is keep it simple. I mean, because no one wants to read 3-page CV or a 4-page CV. So it is a very prime real estate. Try to be concise and try to mention things based on personalization, your achievement, which you think have the most impact. No one wants to know your hobbies. I mean, I don't want to be rude. I mean, you might be very good at singing or dancing, but it's not the place. Your CV is not the place to mention those things. uh, you can bring that up in the conversation, but so don't do that on your CV. Next part is, so these are the slides are a very high level overview of the things. When the slides are over, we can, based on your questions, we can deep dive into certain topics. So the next is topic and round. Let me be blunt and tell you that no one, be it any bootcamp, be it any interview anyone, no one can tell you a guaranteed success path. I or anyone else won't come and tell you that you can do XYZ questions and you're guaranteed a job. That there is nothing like that. Every organization, every company, every round is different. There are vast questions, there are endless questions, but if we can find common grounds, like we can study the fundamentals like web performance, async programming, closures, promises, we can practice, but there is no guarantee to success. So it's always about consistency, that you need to prepare. If you are looking for an interview, then you need to prepare every day, no matter how long you do, but you need to prepare every day. The second part is that if you are in a job and you want to upskill, then also consistency is the key, that you have to always look out for new things, prepare, try to implement those things. Next part is that different companies, like I mentioned, Flipkart versus a company like Zerodha, or a company like WhatsApp. Their requirements are different. So every company has different round. So based on the organization, some organizations look more into performance, security. A company like Razorpay, where there are billions of transactions happening and very high cost financial transaction. For them, web security might be a big thing. That might not be a big thing for a small startup, a 20% startup. For them, it would be more into someone who can do a lot of stuff. So tailor made your preparation based on different companies. There are usually different rounds. One is for CV, resume, another is machine coding round, system design, DSA. Front end also involves some sort of DSA. So you need to be prepared for these things. Next is intersection of skills. So one common question is that how should I start and what should I start with? I would say, let's say you want to work in XYZ companies, Hotstar, Amazon, Recro, or Apollo, Razorpay. Try to go and see what are their job descriptions. See what are the intersecting skills. What is the intersection between different JDs? Let's say out of 10, 7 are asking for React. So prepare React, because that will make you the most employable. Because it's, again, as I mentioned, that it's about game of probability. If you try to find intersection of skills and prepare those most reoccurring skills, then you are most probable to get employed. Next part is, when you are in an interviews, try to give better examples. I mean, if I ask you what is a closure, and if you give me a textbook definition, that it is uh, it is where inner function is accessed by outer function, and you give example like foo, bar. Those doesn't matter. Those things will not work. You have, let's say, if you're working for past 2 and 3 years, maybe you have experienced closures, promises, a thing from programming in your experience. Try to give real world examples. Do not uh, make random variables same and try to explain. If I say hoisting, you just write a fun one and you say this is hoisted and to the top. These things, try to be realistic, try to give things you have actually solved and try to talk about that. So that's pretty much it. I try to cover it fast from me. One thing I want to say, that if you want to, like I mentioned, that it's always overwhelming to don't know where to start and how to start. So devtools.tech/practice, that link will give you one unique question every day that you can prepare. It could be a React question, it could be a MCQ question, it could be a subjective question where you can write solutions. So try these links and prepare well. So that's it from my slides. Back to you, Rashmi.
Okay. You can also share the same link of DevTools in the chat so that people can directly visit the page. Now, time for the questions. Those who are live on Zoom, please drop your questions in the Q&A. And those who are live on LinkedIn, please drop your questions in the chat, in the comments, and I'll pick up some questions from there as well. So, Yomesh, I even folks who registered, right? They also submitted few questions to us. So let me start with few questions first for you, and then we can take up questions in the Q&A sections, right? Um,
Sure.
so let's start with the basic. When anyone who want to apply for a front-end interview, right? Can you sort of help us understand what are the different types of round that one can expect for a front-end interview role?
what different rounds, right?
Different types of rounds, yes.
Yeah, so it varies from companies to companies. Some might have 4 5 rounds, some might go to 6 7 rounds. But a journal, journal theme is that initially there is a telephonic round where it's mostly to understand you, your past experience, why you want to switch, what are your motivations, and what are you looking from your next organization. That's to just generally understand you. The next round could be to one of two things. Either it could be some sort of take home assignment, I mean, or maybe a code like a hacker rank test where you might be given some MCQs or some programming question and you have to solve it. Or it could be more like a CV walkthrough round where they'll understand your education, they'll understand what projects you have done, and based on those projects they'll ask you, what was your impact, what changes did you make, and if you need to extend it, then what would you do. So that's the round one. And this round could also involve some sort of JavaScript questions, maybe very basic, very fundamental questions. The next round would be more around machine coding round, where you might be given a problem. So this could be also a two-way round. One is that you might be given a problem statement, like let's say you building a autocomplete, like a search bar you see on Amazon or something, where you'll or progress bar, or maybe you're fetching data from some third-party API and you have to render it. So that those kind of questions in machine coding round. Maybe you might be asked to implement some sort of array method or low dash method or some sort of promises. Basically, the gist of is that you will be given a problem statement, and within the time frame, maybe 60 minutes, 90 minutes, you have to implement that solution. Another way of this round would be that in some companies, like let's say GitLab, what they do is that they'll give you a PR before the interview, and you would be asked to, in that PR, most of the work would be done. You might be asked to implement certain features, or you might be asked to fix certain things. That if you run that PR, there would be some UI, something, and some things would be broken. So you need to fix those and submit your solution. And in the round, they would discuss that what you did, why you made a certain choice. Maybe you opt for an in-house solution, or did you opt for a third party to solve something? And questions could be in the direction that, since you solved it, did you feel that do we require tests? Why did you not add tests to the PR? So that could also be part of that round. Next would be more like you can say a system design round on front end. Uh, uh, I mean, system design is a very open-ended thing. I mean, I think we can talk about that in a bit. I'm just giving a brief overview of system design. I will talk about system design a bit later. Uh, Apart next After that, there would be a hiring manager round. In that hiring manager round, it would be more like to understand you as a person, as a teammate. There would be questions like you know uh, did you face conflict so far? If yes, then how did you resolve it? Or were you in a situation where, and also these rounds, the theme I'm talking, it's a very generic theme. This could differ from for a fresher to someone who's looking for a senior role. These differ. There is a spectrum. So for a fresher, there might not be a system design role. But for us folk who's 3 4 years of experience in the industry, therefore them there could be a system design. And for hiring manager, it's more to understand what kind of how good you are or how well you would fit in the team. So that kind of thing. And for the round where I mentioned that you might be given some existing code and you have to fix something or build top of it, another way of judging that round is that they want to understand that since you would be joining our team, then how well you can work with legacy code bases, how well you can understand existing code base and fix on top of it or build on top of it. Yeah. And after that, you have your negotiations with the HR. Always negotiate. Don't accept the offer in first go. Always negotiate. Yeah.
Great. I think we should also have question on negotiation at the end of the discussion. I think that's
Yeah.
a pretty important discussion also to have, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that was about the rounds, right? A lot of people have also asked us about the topics. What are the main topics that you feel that one should be prepared for before actually appearing for an interview? Can you also highlight on that?
So the list of topics is very exhausting. I mean, the preparation is never ending. But I would say that start your preparation with the fundamentals always. Like before jumping directly into React or Angular views, right? Always prepare for language fundamentals, topic like promises, closures, event loop, uh, or how JavaScript works in journal browsers, or how browsers work. And not, you don't need to go in depth of the browser, but more like if you type up this is a question which asks, like, if when you type, let's say, google.com and press enter, then how that cycle works, how that HTTP cycle works, what happens, and how the page is rendered. So critical rendering path and anything which is core fundamental of the language, try to prepare that first. Now, the second, once you're done with that, you have basic a command on that. Then for React, let's say if you are preparing for an organization that particularly focuses on React in their tech stack, their entire UI is based on React. So there is, so it's a most likely they'll give you a React question. So try to solve questions in React, try to understand different concepts like how React renders, why keys are used. These are general questions which are asked under. And server side, there could be anything from client side writing versus server side rendering, and how to optimize React, how to optimize a website in journal. So the list is very exhaustive. So I would say it's more about hit and trial, that you start giving interviews and see what is asked in the industry. But a brief summary would be language fundamentals, then frameworks like React, Angular, Svelte, go for that. Then web security, web performance, and and yes, system design after that.
I think we should address system design now. It's the elephant in the room. A lot of people in the registration form have also asked it, and I also see Rahul also asking a question around topics to prepare from for front end system design. So let's start with how much DSA is required. As you mentioned that for uh, folks who are having maybe less than 3 to 4 years of experience, they might not require DSA, right? But for the ones who do, what's how much, what would be the scope of that, and how to go about preparing for DSA, and what are the tips and strategies that you suggest to kind of be successfully implementing or preparing for the same?
Yeah, so there are two parts. One is DSA and one is system design. So I'll tackle both here. The first of all, DSA, it's a quick one. So DSA, data structure and algorithm, it's core computer science fundamental. It has nothing to do with front end or back end as such. But yes, in front end we use DSA a bit less. So the in interview it is confined in terms of questions. I mean, unless you're specifically appearing for companies like Google or some high level fan, they might ask you some trees question or something. But in journal, preparing for going over array questions or linked lists, or journal problem solving, that would suffice. It's good if you know about these things, but or a lot of companies like uh, Razorpay or my organization Apollo.io, we don't generally ask DSA questions. We most tend to focus on things which are you actually focus in the industry. So, and also when you are approached by a HR for an organization, or if you have a word with them, then ask them what is the interview process for an organization. If they ask for, let's say, if they say they have a problem solving or a DSA round, then talk to that HR, what sort of questions would be there, or maybe reach out to someone in an organization and try to get a sense of things. But in journal, uh, these things like arrays, linked lists, or searching algorithms, these are more than enough for front end. Now, the second part is system design. So system design is very open-ended. There are no right or wrong answers to it. It's more about understanding your thought process. The questions could be something like, let's say, if you and I'm taking your system design, then questions could vary from something like, if I can ask you, if we want to build the like button of Facebook, how would you go about it? What would component or data architecture you can think about? Another part would be, let's say this is on Zoom. So if you have to build the Zoom UI, then how would you go about it? Then it's all about you need to think that what sort of components. I would say take the top to bottom approach. Whenever you go into a system design round, try to first of all define the scope. Let's say one question would be, um, let's say an app like Slack. You're asked to design the Redux store for Slack. Now Slack could have channels, could have DMs, could have group DMs, could have notifications, could have uh, voice or huddles and these things. There are like ample features. So you can't build everything or talk about everything in that round. So try to ask clarifying questions. Be it any system design. Your first step should be ask clarifying question. What is the scope? In the Do we need to build it iteratively? So do we? So in version one, what are the prime features we want to build? Try to define the scope and try to narrow it as much as possible so that it's simplified for you. Now ask questions like, do we need to support multiple devices? What are our criteria? Is it do we need to focus on performance? Do we need to focus on supporting multiple devices, or do we need to focus on implementing the features first? Because you can't focus on everything at first. So try to define your scope. Now the second part is that you talk about the architecture. Let's say if it is like you're building like let's say Flipkart. So now you talk about that how front end is going to communicate with the back end. What are the APIs going to look like? Now let's say we are in a like a Flipkart UI. We are just building a feature where we fetch the data and render the list of items, which we call a listing page. So you talk about the data architecture, that from backend we would expect a certain API that would give us the list of products, and that should be paginated or not. And if we apply filters, then how would we apply filters? Do we need to persist the filters, that if someone apply a filter and they refresh, then are they going to see the same result which they were seeing earlier? So that means you have to store the query params, that if price filter or product filters in the URL. Now once you are defined with the scope, you are clear with the data, and architecture, then focus on the UI part. That on a listing page, one component could be a header. In that you have a search bar. One component could be a sidebar where you have filters. Then the list items. In that there could be multiple items. How would you define pagination? Is it going to be a reusable component or not? So this could be one system design. So another, and this could go into any detail, and this could be it could be like, if you want to build WhatsApp, then how would you go about building the WhatsApp web UI? And it could be a very vague questions also, maybe something like, if you want to build Uber's ride matching algorithm, then how would you go about it? It might not be related to your front end as such, but it is mostly to understand your thinking, that how would you approach a problem. Do you If I say like a Flipkart one or a Uber ride matching, do you directly jump into coding, or do you take a step back, think about it, ask clarifying questions? Though that is the judging criteria here. Maybe if I ask you, let's say you want to, in a system design, you need to build a Google analytics library. So do you as soon as I ask question, do you start typing that this would be the object, these are the method, these are the keys? Or do you take a step back and ask that what should we track in this library? Do we need events? Do we need user properties? What should be the API which we need to expose to the users? So, or it could be as vague as, in one system design I got a question that you need how would you count the number of people boarded from a particular metro station in Delhi. I live in Delhi, so there is Delhi Metro. So one question was, how would you count the number of people from that boards a metro from Delhi from a metro station, and you cannot count the number of tokens that issued by the Delhi Metro. So that was a very vague and open-ended question, but it was more to understand how I try to engineer a problem. How would I think about solutions? So system design is more around that. If anyone has a very specific question, they can post in the chat. So I hopefully I helped you in some way with this answer.
Yeah, I think that was pretty detailed explanation there. If Rahul, if you have any follow-up question on that, feel free to post in the Q&A. I'll take one question which is in the Q&A from Ayush. Um, Yumesh, he says that he is currently a final semester, a BTech student who is interning at nurture.farm. As my current project don't include front-end work, how would you suggest I describe my work here on my resume so that it still seems relevant for the front end role?
See, if you haven't done any front end work at your current workplace, then there is no way to showcase it for front end opportunities. I mean, if you want to transition to a front end role, then you have to do it outside your day job, as in work on side projects or build something and share those links. Because and since being a fresher, uh, it's for a fresher, it might not be a requirement to have some sort of side projects because you're just starting out. So companies do give, you can always apply for an internship at a different organization for a front end role and work there. But in terms, if you haven't done any prior work in front end in your work job, then I don't think there is no way to show that in on your resume. You can build, maybe solve some sort of a question on different platforms and try to showcase that work. Maybe build a small to do app or a blog post kind of a thing, and share there that GitHub links on your resume that I built this in my free time and so and so on, and explain your reasoning that I want to transition into a front end role and try to find internship in that space.
Makes sense. Ayush, I hope you got the answer of your question. Moving forward, the next question, which is on the list, Yumesh, is about machine coding rounds. The question was how to practice for machine coding rounds and what are the resources that can be used to practice the same.
So machine coding round, again, anything from building a to-do app or maybe building like a Netflix clone, or that everything comes under machine coding. Autocomplete, search bar, progress bar, star widget. Uh, Sorry to plug it again, but DevTools.tech, you like there are like hundreds of questions on the platform. You can definitely go and prepare. There are machine coding rounds, machine coding interview questions there for that particular round. So go and prepare for that. And apart from that, try to search on GitHub. I know a couple of folks. I think Sanan and Pai, that person has a very good GitHub repo for questions. There is dev code DOM challenge also, that those questions are there. Yeah. So, and yes, learner's bucket, that's also a pretty good resource. He also posts a lot of good questions. So yes.
All right. Folks who are live on LinkedIn, you guys can also post your questions in the chat. And I'm constantly looking to that. And if there is any question that you would have, I'll pick it up.
I
Cool.
think there is a question on LinkedIn chat regarding scope for Angular for freshers. I mean, I would
I
just
don't.
take it up.
Okay.
I hope that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So I mean, personally, I this is my personal view. I see a bit less of scope for Angular as of now compared to the earlier days. Right now, I see people more moving towards React and Svelte and Vue rather than Angular. I mean, there are definitely jobs for Angular and certain projects in Angular, but I would say to be more employable, try to pick up things like React and Vue and Svelte more. those are, in industry are used more compared to Angular.
Okay, I'm looking at some more questions there. I think my window didn't get the refresh. Do you see any other question, Yomesh?
DSA, we talked about DSA, I think. Yeah.
Got it. Cool. Okay, then I'll take up the next question which I have. So another question that came to us was, how do we handle the questions that we need to write code in front of the interviewer? Can you throw some light on that?
Sorry, what
The
the
question
voice was
was
little.
the question was if the interviewer is asking question to write a code in front of them, how do we handle that question? Those kind of questions.
Prepare well in advance. That try to time your. This is equivalent to writing a code in a machine coding round. So my approach would be that open your favorite IDE or maybe Code Sandbox or something or DevTools platform and try to start a timer. That this, let's say I want to implement promise.all and I would implement it. I would start a timer of 30 minutes that within 30 minutes I'll finish it. And the aim here is not to, that your solution should be the perfect one. The aim here is that you are trying and you are able to solve at least one level of it. Maybe your question is not your answer is not the most optimized one, but you're able to get it working within the time frame. Plus, how well you're writing your code. I mean, are you, what are your coding practices? Are you naming your variables well? Are you trying to create a, separate small functions? Are you reusing certain code? Or how well you're structuring your files? Maybe let's say you're building a React app in an interview, and if you're writing one big 1,000-line file for and into that is not a good practice. Maybe you create small components, you import them, you create a separate constant file, and you import the constants from there. So the interviewer wants to judge you based on your knowledge, based on your experience. So if you showcase good practices, if you showcase that yes, this is my production level code which I'm writing here, it might not meet all the criteria. You might not able to check all the use cases in a question, but as long as you're trying to showcase good practices and getting the first iteration out within the time frame, then I think you would be good enough. And it obviously just like anything in life, if you want to drive a car, you have to, and you're a fresher, you're on learner's license, you have to drive almost every day to get yourself good with driving. The same logic applies here. You need to practice every day or maybe more frequently to get good with it.
There's a question by Prathamesh in the Q&A, and he wants to know about some of the good resources that you can suggest for preparation.
Yeah, the resources I mentioned, I'll mention in the chat again. DevTools.tech you have, then you have Learners Bucket, you have DevCode Community, and obviously I think Recro might also share some good resources with them. You have Namaste JavaScript by Akshay Saini, so that's also a good resource. So yeah, here are few of them. And yeah, JavaScript info is a website which is a good one to prepare.
Okay. The next question is by Akash Joshi, and the question is: do we need to practice machine coding in any framework or just vanilla JS or both?
I would say keep a mixed bag. Let's say if you're practicing 10 questions, then 5 or 6 vanilla and 5 or 6 for a framework, because a lot of companies do ask or do if you are going for a senior role, let's say senior front end role or something, and that organization is already working with React, so they would expect you to know React because they would not going to teach you React if you have 4 or 5 years of industry experience. And having that in mind, machine coding round is a part of larger rounds. So maybe in an earlier round they did test you on vanilla concepts of vanilla JavaScript concepts. So in this round, it could go either ways. It could be they might ask you to build using just HTML, CSS, pure JavaScript, or they might ask you to use some React or Vue or anything, depending on the organization. So I would say keep a mixed bag. Try not to be focused on just one thing. Try to do both things. Try to balance out.
Okay. Akash and Prathamesh, I hope you got the answers. If you have any more question, feel free to put it up in the Q&A.
I think
Yomesh,
there are
the
some
next,
questions on LinkedIn.
yeah, can we take them up?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Can you call
Do
out the question, Yomesh? I don't see that on my screen.
Yeah, so one is by Akshay saying, is currently tech job market is facing any downfall compared to 2022, and what's your view on that? Yes, definitely there is a bit slowdown in the market. I wouldn't, say that there is not. So if you are working in an organization and if you are looking out, my personal recommendation would be that please be very mindful. Try to go to secure companies at this point of time. There are layoffs and there is a slowdown. But if I would say that if you are good enough, if you have a very strong command on your skills and you are constantly learning, then finding a job won't be that hard. I mean, interview in itself would be hard, but it's that you would have ample opportunities. So, but yes, if you are looking out for a job, then try to go to good companies, and well-funded companies. So, because it's not easy to find job again and again. So try to be secure and take a smart decision. Yeah. And one is
Okay.
again from someone, another Akshay is talking about, I have 2 years experience in front end, particularly React and Next.js, built some cool Web3 and Web2 projects. Zero projects. Okay, cool Web3 projects and Web2 zero projects. What things should I focus on for the long term info? Uh, I mean, Web3 and Web2 are two different things. They're because different companies operate in different space. If you want to work in Web3, then you can focus on building Web3 projects, decentralized or NFTs or crypto, whatever is your, whatever you feel like. If you want to work in a Web2 domain, then yes, build work on Web2 things, work on Web2 projects, and try to the core fundamentals of both are same. I mean, it's programming. The core fundamental remains the same. It's just that you need to find your niche. If you want to work in a Web3 space, then optimize for that. If you want to work in a Web2 space, then optimize for that. Web2 is here to stay for good amount of time. It's not like that, we would wake up like next year and everything would be Web3. I don't think that would be the case. But yes, update yourself with new things. And no code tool movement is very on rise now. So try to get to know about things like module federation, micro frontends, service workers, web performance. Try to upskill yourself with those skills. That would be helpful.
Great. I just see these two questions on LinkedIn, right? I don't think there is any more.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question that's there, Umesh, which was about preparing for different companies. So, are there any differences in terms of preparation when for the same role in different companies?
Yes, definitely. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, like if you're applying for a B2B company like Mindtickle, or if you're applying for a B2C company like Amazon, their requirements would differ because someone who's having millions of users on different devices, different net connections, internet connections, the requirements for a front end engineer might differ. I mean, yes, at the end of the day, you need to know, let's say, React for both. But for one, it would be more inclined towards that you can drive up large projects, build large features because their business users there for B2B, the users might be a business users that can wait for if the page takes more than a couple of seconds to load. For let's say Amazon, if the web page is taking more than 1 second or something, then they might lose out on the customer. So try to tailor made for that. Similar thing for let's say Swiggy versus something like some B2B organization, or you know and also again, let's say a fintech organization might focus on web security more than some other organization who's in let's say healthcare or food delivery or something. For them there are some other requirements. So try to see what they're asking in their GD, try to talk to people, try to search up previous questions and previous round. On Lead Code there are interview experiences posted on various Discord communities, on blind team blind. There are people post their interview experiences. So try to get as much data point as possible and prepare as for that.
All right. Folks who are asking for the resources on LinkedIn, I have also shared the same in the chat, in the comments. You can check that out. Okay. Um, One last question, which is on my list, Yomesh, which one of the registrant asked was, I was okay. I'm switching to a React role, but I have 2 years of experience in software engineering. How can I use that to my advantage?
uh, I can't comment unless I know what you have done in your past 2 years of experience. So uh, you can use, if you have build big features, or maybe you have solved a lot of problems in those 2 years, so use that to showcase on your CV, and that I was leading a certain project where I made this impact and improved this so and so things. So use that to showcase your impact and your contributions on your CV. I don't know how well that correlate with React, because I'm same again. If I don't have enough context, I can't tell. So it is very unique to your case. Maybe you can reach out to me via LinkedIn, or Top Mate or something, and set up a session. Then we can talk about these things. But I don't have enough data point to answer that.
Okay. One last question, which is there in the Q&A, which is about negotiation, which we were talking about. Ayush has asked this question about negotiation. How would you suggest one goes about that for someone who doesn't have any experience with negotiation, and even for someone who is experienced now, if you have any tips to share?
Negotiation is a tricky concept, or a tricky topic. But yes, if you are, if you feel that you are being underpaid, or if you feel that in another, always try to keep backup options. It's okay that if you're applying to multiple organizations and you have offers from multiple organizations, try to see which organization is offering you how much. And if you like an organization and you feel that they are underpaying as per the market, then politely ask them that I feel that and I've seen in the industry that my peers are getting more, and I would like you to reconsider the offer a bit. Don't try to be blunt and say that I don't want to work here, or don't be disrespectful. That's the first bare minimum point. Be politeful and and tell them that I want to join the organization, but I feel that we can rework or revisit the compensation offer. And always recruiters would come back with better numbers. So they expect a certain negotiation. So sometimes they would quote a number, and when you push back a little, then they would improve. And if it's not feasible, they would tell you in the first go that this is the best we could do. Maybe if not monetary, they can give you more ESOPs or maybe some other benefits, or if you can negotiate a joining bonus or something of that sort. But every negotiation is different, but try to have polite conversation that we should revisit the numbers, and always look out for competing offers. It's there is no harm in that.
All right. That was the last question in the Q&A. Folks, if you have any other question, please drop us in the Q&A. I don't see any further questions in the on LinkedIn as well. So I think we can just wrap this session with one last question, which will also be the crux of this entire discussion that we have had with Yomesh. So, as per your own experience, Yomesh, what you have seen with your colleagues and with your friends, some of the common mistakes that people make when they prepare for front-end interviews, if you can highlight that, and again, if you can quickly highlight on some of the best practices as well, that would be great.
Uh, One thing is that people just focus in the preparation loop, that they feel that I'm not ready yet, and they keep on preparing for long, and by that time the opportunity is gone, or job market changes. So prepare for things, try to give some interviews in some organization, and see you're in uh, try to test the waters, basically what is asked, and alter your preparation based on the feedback you are getting from different organizations and different interviews. Next would be that not tailoring their CV, or not optimizing it for the role you're applying. So focus on that. Another thing would be that if not showing enough sincerity when asking for referrals. I got very generic messages for referrals, and if I say that did you check the careers page, then people get offended that why you're asking me to check the careers page. You go and search for me as if like I am, they bought me or something. I mean, I have people get offended if I try to tell them something. So be sincere, be try to do your homework. It's because and next is that I would say, if possible, try to do your personal branding. See, I am this. I don't want to be blunt or anything. See, I am sitting in a with you, and I'm no expert on anything, but I have done some work. That's why Recro is inviting me to here and talk about certain things. So if you and I apply for a job tomorrow in Recro, then it's more likely that I'll get the call first, because based on what I've done, what I've put out in the community, and what how I'm sharing my knowledge. So it's all about personal branding. Try to make your own brand, that you recall different brands like Amazon, Microsoft, because based on their work, like Microsoft is making browsers, or like Edge or Windows, or VS Code, because you have seen their work in the public. So that's why your personal brand. Try to maybe share your knowledge on GitHub, on LinkedIn, like blog posts, or those kind of things, so people remember who you are. And that would give them in your CV, that would give you an edge based on, because if I write on my CV that I know JavaScript, like then there are like 10,000 more people, or 1 lakh more people who are writing that they know JavaScript. So what is your USP? So you have to identify that and try to create a niche for it. So yes, that's it.
Absolutely. I can't agree more on the personal branding element of it. You certainly get a lot of opportunities by doing the same. And that's something which we also encourage a lot in our community as well, inside the Rebase, when we constantly tell people to post content on LinkedIn, keep sharing resources, whatever you know, whatever you're learning on a daily basis, right? So that's perfectly on point, Ramesh. All right, I think we are on time then. Um, uh, and I don't see any more questions. And um, we wrapped it up on a good note, wherein we kind of summarized the entire discussion of how do we go about it and mistakes that we should avoid, and some of the tips as well. Pretty interesting conversation with you, Yumesh. Anything else that you would like to share with the audience?
Uh, eh, Thanks for hosting me, first of all. And it was great talking to you and the Recruit team. Uh, Nothing, just if anyone wants to reach out to me, then connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm always open. Uh, Again, just the last plug of my platform, devtools.tech. That is my platform where I'm trying to help the community. It's completely free, and it's for the people. So just go and use it. Give me your valuable feedback, and together maybe we can build something nice. So yeah, that's the
Yes.
ending point.
So guys, check out devtools.tech. I have also shared the same on LinkedIn comments, and the link is also in the chat. And reach out to Yomesh if you have any further question with respect to front-end interviews. And Yomesh is also a part of the Rebase community, so you can also join us inside and learn from Yomesh and other such mentors inside the community. You can also connect with fellow developers and take help and ask for support. On that note, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today, and the LinkedIn family as well. Thank you so much for joining us and asking questions there. Thank you so much, Yomesh, for the insights and for taking out the time. It was actually a great conversation with you. I myself have learned a lot in this session as well. So thank you so much for joining us and for the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much, everybody. I hope to see you guys in the next webinar. And we'll keep you guys updated about the same in the community. So see you inside Discord. Okay,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Bye.